Welcome, my name is Stephanie Snyder. I will be the presenter for this presentation. This presentation was created by me. It focuses on the educational technology that is vastly emerging into our society. This emerging educational trend is virtual learning. As we all know, this pandemic has changed the way educators teach their students. The traditional classroom style of teaching is no longer the way educators present their lessons. One trend that has emerged strongly during the pandemic is virtual learning. Virtual learning is a new way of learning for many teachers and students. It is not going away, however, when this pandemic is over, nor should it, as it offers many benefits to teachers and students. Today's agenda outlines what virtual learning is. It describes the three types of virtual learning that can take place when incorporated into student learning. A brief synopsis will describe some of the research-based findings of virtual learning conducted by Professor Radovan Moravrik from the University of Pastrani in Serbia. Finally, I will provide the top 5 advantages and disadvantages to highlight this growing trend in the educational technology. Virtual learning refers to the instruction that takes place in a learning environment where the teacher and students are learning in a separate location. This can include being separated by time, space, or both. Curriculum content is taught through the internet with the use of applications, multimedia resources, whiteboards, and video conferencing. Educators can use applications like Dreambox and Achieve 3000 to assist with teaching material and meeting students' individual needs. Multimedia resources like BrainPop and virtual realities can also support students' learning. The use of a whiteboard can encourage students' interaction in the lesson by answering questions, showing their work, and actively contributing and collaborating. An application many teachers use is Boardify. This application allows students to share their work in front of the class from their tablets at their desk, encouraging immediate feedback. To make virtual learning happen, a school district or university must determine which video conferencing platform is best to assist in educating students. One frequently chosen example of video conferencing is Zoom. Another common one is Google Classroom. Virtual learning is split up into 3 types of learning: asynchronous, synchronous, and the hybrid model. Asynchronous learning is self-directed. This means assignments are posted on an online learning platform such as Schoology or Blackboard for students to complete on their own within a specific time frame. There is no teacher and student interaction during asynchronous learning. This means students have to reach out to the teacher by leaving a message on the discussion board or write them an email. Synchronous learning is instructed by the teacher in real time. Teachers and students interact with one another through the use of video conferencing resources such as Zoom or Google Classroom. Synchronous learning allows for teachers and students to participate from anywhere that they have internet connection. During synchronous learning, students listen to instruction, interact with the teacher and their classmates, collaborate with classmates in breakout rooms, participate in discussions, and complete activities as directed. Hybrid learning is a mixture of asynchronous, synchronous, and face-to-face learning. This means learning is both in person and online. Teachers instruct students online with curriculum content and post material for them to complete independently. Virtual learning is relatively new to the educational world. This means there is a limited amount of research-based findings published so far. An initial finding about virtual learning is that investors are putting a lot of money into virtual learning platforms. Education is moving from the traditional learning setting to the hybrid model where virtual learning will be part of students' everyday educational experience. A second finding about virtual learning is that it is growing at an exponential rate and is predicted to continue to grow over time. This implies that virtual learning is not going away. A third finding is that there is no reason for education to happen entirely in the same physical classroom anymore. Clearly, students in all grades, especially those from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade, benefit from being in-person learning. Students need to have social interactions with one another, but virtual learning is an effective option for those who choose to or must stay at home now that the educational field has opened up to virtual learning. Many schools will likely continue offering virtual learning in special circumstances even after the pandemic has ended. A final finding of virtual learning is that it allows for flexibility. Teachers can post assignments and allow more time for students to complete them. Virtual learning offers students the option to complete assignments on a later date if they could not attend that day's instruction. Flexibility is enhanced when it comes to virtual learning. There are several advantages to virtual learning. One advantage to virtual learning is that it is highly interactive. This promotes collaboration and engagement of all students. The second advantage is that it allows teachers to develop lessons that are centered around students' learning. This can be done through differentiated instruction or the use of various applications that address and meet students' individual needs. A third advantage to virtual learning is that it provides students a safe and comfortable place to learn. Students can learn from their home or in a setting that best supports their needs. A fourth advantage of virtual learning is that it establishes organization for the teacher. The teacher develops lessons, creates materials and resources to support the lesson, and uploads them into the learning platform for students to complete. The last advantage of virtual learning is the cost. Costs are minimal for students to have access, just like when they attend a public school in person. Virtual learning has its disadvantages. However, one such disadvantage that we face in today's virtual world is the issue of internet access as well as the possibility of malfunction that goes with this. The inequality of connectivity issue can be far-reaching, causing problems that ripple throughout the virtual learning curriculum, as some students may not be able to connect at all. Our school district overcame this by offering hotspots that allowed students to connect. There are also daily issues with connecting that may be caused by equipment failure, bandwidth issues, and more, presenting a major inconvenience to teachers and students. Another issue is that of time. It takes time and training to adapt the traditional method of teaching into one that is based virtually, leaving some teachers feeling a bit like a fish out of water. In addition, managing the completion of asynchronous assignments can easily overwhelm teachers and students alike. By necessity, one must have patience when it comes to virtual learning. This implies to be experience as a whole. For even though the virtual world can afford unique opportunities, it can also constrain and challenge both students and teachers. One of the hardest felt constraints falls upon the socialization factor of learning. The lack of face-to-face interaction poses a huge disadvantage when it comes to socialization of students. Indeed, teachers too are greatly affected by this development. Where before teachers could bounce their ideas off of their team members, now teaching is often more solitary. This concludes today's presentation on emerging trends in educational technology, virtual learning. This presentation described what virtual learning is. It examined the 3 types of virtual learning and discussed key findings. A list of the top 5 advantages and disadvantages were reviewed. To remind you of this presentation, an infographic is going around that outlines the advantages and disadvantages of virtual learning. Thank you for your time and presence. I hope you learned some new things about this emerging trend, virtual learning.